Hello and welcome to what promises to be a particularly stimulating evening of conversation on Off the Cuff or OTC. And I say particularly stimulating because our guest today is Fali Nariman, who speaks very little, but when he does speak, everybody listens. And most of all, the judges listen. And he doesn't have to just speak in the court, he can speak outside the court, he can speak in newspapers, he can speak on TV. He is, if I may say so, conscience keeper of Indian judiciary and Indian constitution for many, many, many decades. So we have Fali here and we have a wonderful audience. And I promise you this will be a scintillating evening. So Fali, when you go to bed these days, what is it that makes you happy about the state of our constitutional democracy? And what is it that worries you?
What makes me happy is the vibrant nature of our democracy. What makes me sad is that not too many people who should speak up for people's rights and liberties.
Fali, when you say not enough people speak for liberties and rights, give us some examples.
You see, when you meet a lot of people, they're all a little wary of the powers that be. And the powers that be don't necessarily include government. They don't exclusively. The powers that be include the big companies, the big corporates, and people like that. So I therefore like this business of the social media where people do converse quite freely, much more freely than the regular press or the regular media or, and so on. And it is there that you pick up all the little gossip that goes on in the country, much of which may or may not be true, but at least it's entertaining. Whereas we find that the media nowadays, and I feel bored listening to all the spokesmen of each and every political party every wretched night, because they all say the same thing on behalf of their respective parties, and I don't know why the media, the electronic media, cannot invite individual members of political parties who are not spokesmen of the party in order to get their views. I don't see any wrong in that. Why do you only ask the spokesman? Because the spokesperson only said what he is bespoken to. That is, he is told that this is what you must say. And he will never confess that the party is wrong. Never. Neither the the present majority party, nor the opposition, nor any one of the other parties.
But I have to tell you this, that not...
And every single channel does this. Every single channel.
Yes, Fali, the same spokesman can be on 5 channels at the same time.
Yeah, I wonder how that happens.
And each one calls it exclusive,
yes.
Right? So I sometimes think that they employ body doubles. but the fact is that parties now control who speaks on their behalf. So parties don't let other people go.
How do you mean don't let other people go?
They give a list of spokesmen.
And then you resign from the party.
Oh.
Resign from the party.
Or you get expelled like me.
You get expelled.
Or you get expelled like Mr. Amar Singh.
You see, I think that, no, I really mean this. I've often felt this, and this is a public platform on which I wish to air this. I don't know why these editors of all these news channels invite the same set of fellows. I feel bored looking at them. Every night, the same set of channels, as you say, in every channel. You switch one, switch the other, switch the other. Yeah, boring, absolutely boring. And they say the same wretched things themselves. Well, so why do you ask the spokesman? There are so many eminent, decent human beings who have views, who may belong to a party or may not. Invite them. Ask them their views. Why not? Why don't you do that?
That's a very good point. I hope
they do it all over the world. I don't know. We only don't do this.
Yes, absolutely. And I think...
And if there's one theme, one theme runs through all the channels. Why? Let's have another theme, for God's sake. Anyway, that's my complaint.
We start. See, once you get Fali on stage...
They won't invite me anymore.
So the Fali on stage, we are the first to get our admonition. But rights, Fali, which rights are the ones, which citizens' rights that you feel that you worry about now? Which ones are under threat, or which ones are shrinking
You
or
see, the
contracting?
Constitution is under threat. Let me be very frank. With the massive electoral victory in Uttar Pradesh, with the priest installed at the instance of the Prime Minister as the Chief Minister, with like the cherry on the victory cake. So that is a signal. And if you can't see it, then you must be either the spokesman of the political party or you must have your head, your eyes examined. Because it's there.
It's there.
I mean, let's face it, let's not poo-poo about it, or let's not just make fun about it. There's no need to do that. They're entitled to say what they want to, but the message is very clear. And what you want to do in reaction to that is for all of you to decide, all of us to decide. Sorry, not you, all of us to decide.
And you think that all of us are not taking sufficient notice of it? We are being complacent?
We are being hypocritical, not complacent, hypocritical. You never like to say anything like this. Oh my God, what will the Prime Minister say if he finds that Mr. Nariman has criticized this?
No, I'll say Mr. Nariman said this. This is
Exactly.
cherry on the cake.
Exactly.
So I'll fire the gun from your shoulder.
Exactly, but you must give it to the Prime Minister. You see, he is quite forthright.
Right.
He doesn't mince words. And his energy is something remarkable. Absolutely. I told you the other day, his energy is fantastic. I've never seen a man with such fantastic energy. But there my comment ends. I mean, I don't accept all the policies of the Prime Minister. And I say this quite openly. There's no doubt about it.
Does the Constitution have the strength to withstand such a statement of majority, if not majoritarianism?
This is the problem. The Constitution has the strength, but the people who support the Constitution don't. Here are members of Parliament, many of them I see, some of them I don't see, but they are all here in the country. It is for them to question the Prime Minister and to ask him, why has no correspondent of any leading channel asked the Prime Minister, is it true, as this fellow Nariman seems to suggest, that this is the beginning of a Hindu state? Ask him. I'm sure he'll say something which is quite characteristic of him, because he's a very enlightened person. I mean, make no mistake. He's not one of your...
And he speaks his mind.
And he speaks his mind. So at least you'll know what to be prepared for. If you see, please realize this, all of you. It's the Hindu majority that gave us this constitution.
Right.
85% of people at the time of the Constituent Assembly, 85% of the members of the Constituent Assembly, 233 out of 299 or some such a figure, were Orthodox Hindus, with Rajendra Prasad as the most Orthodox of all. And they gave us this magnificent constitution. I say magnificent, and I dare anyone to say it's not. It is magnificent constitution. All of you young people who have studied the constitution know it. And it has given us an added advantage by having that Bill of Rights, which most constitutions don't. And a Bill of Rights that works, or is made to work, except that it didn't work during the internal emergency of June 75 to 1977, which gave us an inoculation, as it were. Okay, what can happen if you are not vigilant? And that's what happened when you were not vigilant. And so therefore, I always say that one should be forthright in one's views, political views also. Ask the Prime Minister, is this true, that what these people are now pretending to say? Or is there going to be a Hindu state? Please tell us, we must know. Because if there is, there's going to be an amendment of the Constitution. There's going to be some problem which the judiciary may have to face, etc., etc., etc. So we know. But no member of Parliament has so far asked him. Parliament is in session. I've been reading the newspapers every day. Everybody gets up and protests at this, that or the other. But not one member of Parliament has asked him this question. Why not? I fail to see why not. He's a very forthright person. I mean, he will appreciate someone asking him this. The answer he gives is for him.
See, when some of us ask this question in public debate, we are told, but if somebody can be elected a member of parliament 5 times, why can't he be chief minister?
But let him say that. I'm asking you a different question. He can. Nobody stops him. Nobody stops him. But it's a little odd that he should also be a head priest. Little odd.
Fali, you said you worry about the fact that constitution is under threat and people whose charge it is to protect it may not have the strength to protect it.
And please, they protect it in their own interest also. Because look how well looked after members of parliament are. Here's one. He'll tell you. I was one, and I'm still looked after extraordinarily well. I must tell you. I get an enormous pension. Enormous means, well, it's quite enormous. 20,000 or some such thing. A pension a month. That's quite a lot for anybody. And you are looked after by the state. And the state looks after everybody, not just the members of the leading party, but for everybody, every member of parliament. Therefore, it's part of their function to see that the constitution is protected. If they don't protect the constitution, it's very difficult, I feel, for the judiciary to do so. Especially if you remember the role of the judiciary during the emergency, which was abysmal. That's the problem.
So how would you compare this period with the oncoming of the emergency, the 6 months before the emergency?
There is a comparison. People who haven't, I mean, most of you, some of you of course have, but most of you haven't lived through the emergency. Some of us have lived through the emergency. So we know what it is to live through an emergency. It's very difficult, very difficult. People don't speak to each other. We used to have 2 great stalwarts in our bar. One was C.K. Daftari, former Attorney General. The other was Sundarlal Desai, who was a senior advocate. And they would always, during the emergency, I'd go very early to court. I always go early to court. And at 10 o'clock, they would also come to court. Each one would sit opposite to one another. There was Daftari puffing at his pipe. And Sundarlal with his cigarette in the 3rd and 4th finger, puffing away at his cigarette. And Sundarlal would tell Daftari, Chandu bhai, bolo. Chandu bhai, with sparkle in his eyes, he was a brilliant man. Tame pelle bolo.
You speak first.
You speak first. In the emergency, it was like that. Nobody could speak. Nobody would speak. And that encapsulated. This is an encapsulated symbol of what is the emergency. That's really what happened. Nobody would say anything. These are troublesome times. Today in a majority community also, nobody says anything. They're all very worried.
I think one thing they say is, जो भी हो शुक्र है कम से कम मैं तो हिंदू हूँ.
But please remember, even today, 80% of the country is Hindu.
Right.
So actually, it's what the Hindus ultimately say that will be the rule. Not rule of law, but rule of Hindu law or Hindus, whatever it is.
It's what the Parsis say will be the rule of law.
Oh God, no.
But I can promise you.
We Parsis are finished. Although I must tell you, we are the most preferred minority community in the country. For which I give Mr. Modi full marks.
Full marks. I bet he speaks with you in Gujarati. I bet he speaks with you in Gujarati.
Oh yes, yes. He's extraordinarily affable. He's extraordinarily kind. He's very, very, very generous. But I am amazed always at his at the energy here. When you meet him at the president's banquet or something at 8 o'clock at night, he comes and speaks to you in Gujarati, and he says this, that, and the other. I'm always reminded, actually, of a line from a favorite poem of mine. I don't know if you know. Rudyard Kipling has written one of the best poems in the English language. It's called If. If. Yeah, you must get it and read it. There's a line there which says, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, then all the earth is yours. And what's more, you'll be a man, my son. What a brilliant poem. What a brilliant poem. Yeah.
So Fali, 6 months leading up to the emergency and the period now. Why does this remind you of that?
It reminds me because you have to be beware. But in order to beware, you have to know something. If you go around woolly-headed, not knowing what's happened, you must know our past.
Nobody cares what happened pre-Google.
That's the problem. That's the problem. That's the problem. You have to know your past, please. You have to know. And you have to know your remote past also. And I beg you, all of you students, for instance, I was a student, and I was so inspired by Nehru's discovery of India. All of you read Nehru's discovery of India. There's not a better book on the history of India than Nehru's discovery. It's written so simply and so excellently. And believe me, despite what anybody may say, I'm a Nehruvian. I confess that.
Although Nehru is not so much in fashion anymore.
Not at all.
Not at all.
But look here, Sardar Patel also wrote the Constitution.
Absolutely. Our first question is actually from a student.
Sir, just now you said that there's a threat to the country or the constitution because of the Hindutva factor. I would like you to remind that the latest census data published by the Modi government shows that there has been a 0.7% decline in the Hindu population.
Yeah, from 85 to 80.
The first time the Hindu population has declined, come below 80%, and the Muslim population has grown 0.8%. So how do you still see that there is a Hindutva factor involved in this, and it's a threat to the community?
Because 80% is much more than the entire Muslim population of India.
But the decline has been for the first time, since always we have been growing, but this was the first time when we...
Yes, take steps to improve that. To improve it. The Muslims have found a good way. You have only to amend one of your acts, that's all.
So, Fali, the other guardian of the Constitution, the final guardian, the judiciary. Push comes to the shove, will they be found as wanting as they were during the emergency, or will they do better this time?
Only time can tell, but they'll probably do better.
They'll do better. And what gives you that assurance?
Well, because many of them have known what it was during the emergency, or have at least experienced what it was.
Right.
That's the only reason.
Right.
You see, if we never had the emergency, we would have been on clean slate. We wouldn't have known what it is to be under an oppressed government. This under an oppressed government is a very important thing. It's good to be for a short while. It's an inoculation. It shows what can happen, what could be there, and for God's sake, never give up parliamentary democracy. I know that members of parliament collect their fees and hop off, and they make all the noise in parliament, but believe you me, the silence of a non-parliamentary democracy is the silence of the grave. It is the only way in which, and this is, I expressed this exactly a year ago, he will tell you, the President Secretary will tell you, before the President, where there was a release of a book, and I mentioned this expressly, that I am very fearful. There was no election, there was nothing there, but I said I am very fearful that there will come a stage when there will be an autocratic government in place and the President has to take care. And I still say so.
You still say so?
I still say so.
These judges, the current set of judges, have their recent actions reassured you? Actions, say, on Goa and Manipur. Goa particularly, for example, because it became a challenge in the court.
In fact, Goa, I expressed myself, I mean, quite frankly, no, definitely not. You see, they said everybody has to run up to the governor and say, see, I have the majorities. That's not the constitution, that's not the convention. Nobody runs up to the governor. The governor can say, go away, I don't want to see you. I will invite the leader of the majority party. The chief election commissioner here will tell you. That's been happening for years and years and years.
That's how Mr. Vajpayee became Prime Minister for 13 days.
That's how Mr. Vajpayee became Prime Minister. That's how a whole set of people, these are all normal conventions. I don't know what got into their head by saying that you have to go first to the... And so therefore, I'm critical of that particular thing,
right.
A particular event. But then one can be critical, but that doesn't mean that you denigrate the whole judiciary and say that the entire...
No, most certainly not.
Yeah.
Ashutosh Varshney,
Okay.
Mr. Nariman, thank you for the wonderful set of reflections that you've already provided. Is it possible, in a juridical sense, for the judiciary of India, or the highest court at least, to give a Hindu nationalist interpretation of the Constitution?
Good question. Justice Verma tried it.
Yes, we know, yeah.
Justice Verma, but his was the soft Hindutva.
Right.
You must remember what Justice Verma said in the Joshi's case, that election case of Joshi, and we were all shocked and surprised, I must tell you, as advocates at that time. But Verma redeemed himself when he became chairman of the Human Rights
Commission.
Yes. Absolutely outstanding. I have no critical comment about Verma for that reason.
Is it possible today to give this constitution a Hindu Rashtra, a Hindu nationalist interpretation?
I fear it. I fear it. I hope not, but I fear it. But that's for the Hindus to decide, as I really said. You see, we minorities are nothing. You, I, Muslim, Christian, etc. We are just a few spattering. We don't count, and rightly so. I concede that. I don't say that we should count, etc. We don't. It's some Hindus who have to decide. Do you want a Hindu state? You tell us.
But the judge is a judge first or a Hindu first, or a...
He has to be a judge first,
Right.
under any circumstances. I mean, under our system of law.
So the judge is not supposed to bend to popular will.
Of course not.
The judge is supposed to interpret the Constitution.
Interpret the Constitution, and the Constitution is, and we expect the judge to interpret the Constitution in the best way possible. And then it's a matter of public confidence. Once you get a judge who interprets a particular thing correctly, then it becomes... I still remember Justice Matthew, K.K. Matthew, was a judge of the Supreme Court, fantastic human being. His son delivered that judgment in the Uttaranchal, was it Uttaranchal?
Uttaranchal, yes.
Yeah, the Uttaranchal case. His son is
Where-
a judge, Chief Justice of Uttaranchal.
He restored the Uttaranchal
Yes,
government.
K.K. Matthew's son. Anyway, so far as K.K. Matthew. See, nowadays, our Supreme Court says, because of the enormous piling of work, etc., it's just not able to cope with it. So if anybody comes with an Article 32 petition, a 32 petition means a petition for enforcement of a fundamental right. Now, our constitution framers thought that anybody who wanted to enforce fundamental rights must first go to the Supreme Court, because that's the primary way. Nowadays, of course, nobody goes, and you can't go, and they say, go to the High Court. So Matthew was then a junior judge. He was sitting last in a bench of 5, and I still remember I was present in court where some gentleman, poor fellow, was arguing on his matter, and all the other judges were saying, no, you please go to the High Court. We can't deal with this. You have to go first. Matthew came out and just thumped the table and said, you must say that I am enforcing my fundamental right under 32. Because 32 itself is a fundamental right. For enforcing a fundamental right, you have a fundamental right which enables you to enforce it. That's one of the great things in our Constitution. That's why it's such a magnificent Constitution. See, the other thing which I'll tell you also, which has struck me as very odd, and it's always struck me as very odd, that in that act which they did in order to preserve the Ayodhya.
Right.
Yeah, I
The
forget
site.
the name of the, yeah, that's right, the site. This was a 5-judge bench. And the 2 judges who struck down that act were minority judges, one Muslim and one Parsi. The judges who upheld it were 3 Hindus. Now, it wasn't because there were 3 Hindus that they held it, but you can say that it was.
Right.
That's the way you look at it.
Right. So,
You see, it's the way you look at things.
So, in that perspective, how do you look at the recent development in Ram Janmabhoomi case, where the Chief Justice said, this is an emotional issue, go settle outside, and I'm willing to offer my services, but not as a judge.
All right, my view is, read my letter to the editor yesterday in the Indian Express, where I have supported the editorial which said, objection, my lord. That was the heading of the editorial. So I support the editor. He's right.
And what is the reason you think this was wrong? What is your objection, my lord?
No, at this point of time, how can a Chief Justice, who is supposed to administer justice fairly, etc., for everybody, and seen to be fairly, I'm not saying that he won't, because he's an excellent human being. I know him personally, he's an excellent human being. But that's not the case, that's not the point. This is unfortunate that he has, in my view, very unfortunate, it is my view, that he stuck his neck out, as it were, and said, I will mediate. What's there to mediate? You decide according to law, not according to sentiment.
Are you for more transparency from the collegium?
Oh yes, definitely, and now we have it apparently.
You have it, yes.
Because we have a secretariat and things of that
Right.
sort, which we always should have.
And something will be recorded
And
now.
something will be recorded.
Will be recorded.
And the third judge today, who is a very able judge,
Justice
Judge
Chalameshwar.
Chalameshwar, yes,
He's come back to the
He has,
collegium.
no, not only, but he is the person who has pointed this out.
Right.
That why don't you do this? In fact, he is the person who pointed out, why don't you appoint that gentleman from Matthew's son as a judge of the Supreme Court? It came in the press.
Right, absolutely,
Yeah.
yes.
And the judges didn't do it because the government might not have accepted. And
Right.
therefore, the whole thing might be held up. But he said, so what? Show yourself. And I think and he was right. I think
deserves an applause.
Chalameshwar was
Because
right.
When a judge stands up for something that's right,
Yes,
these
that's
days,
right.
You have to
And-
applaud them.
Yes,
I
yes.
mean, we criticize them all. I criticize them all the time over this BCCI thing, because I think they've just got stretched in the wrong direction.
I don't know about BCCI. I'm not a fan of yours in the BCCI.
Dr. Qureshi?
Indian Election Commission is considered the most powerful commission in the world.
Absolutely.
But I feel that our system of appointment is the most effective.
Most difficult.
We are appointed by the government of the day. It's just a miracle that we have all been very fair.
You're absolutely right.
But it has, we hope is no strategy that we will all behave very well. We must have a constitutional safeguard. And don't you think a system of collegium for appointing this election commissioner is extremely important? When you have this collegium even for non-constitutional bodies like the CVC, CIC, and even an official like CBI, director of
Yeah,
CBI.
but you see, I'll tell you, I entirely agree, but the Supreme Court doesn't like to interfere with the Election Commission because it itself is of the view that it is the most important and the most powerful body in the Constitution today. No, it is. No, I'm not praising you or your successors, etc. But that is the position.
But
because just imagine if we had an election commission that followed the dictates of the government of the day, be it Congress, be it BJP, be it SP, be it anything, it would be a disaster. There would be no democracy.
And sir, interestingly, do you know the only authority in the country who does not take any oath? Even the oath we had taken as IAS officers retired with us. And every officer, every minister, everyone takes an oath, but not the election commissioner. With all the power, no oath. It is a miracle that we have been behaving.
And yet he... You're right. Very good, correct. But sometimes with taking oath also and the misbehaving is unknown, not unknown.
If we can go right to the back.
My name is Aditi and I'm from Amity Law School. I'm in third year and since I'm from Uttar Pradesh, so yeah, it was a bigger concern for me also that just because we've got a chief minister who is a yogi, we are anticipating that this will be a beginning of a Hindu Raj or Hindutva. So I would like to, in fact, as a matter of fact, we all would like to know your ideas or your thinking as to how you say that this will be a beginning of Hindu Raj.
Well, let me tell you that you must go and ask Mr. Subramaniam Swamy if you happen to know him, because he is very frank about it. He says that the correct thing is to have a Hindu state. He has said it repeatedly. He said it on television. So it's not my invention, please. And this is only an endorsement which I believe the Prime Minister has made. The Prime Minister may deny it, but that's my assumption that appointing a particular person who happens to be the gentleman that you named as Chief Minister is itself an indication of the fact that he wishes to propagate a religious state.
Your student first. And then.
Good evening, sir. This is Jaskaran Singh Chawla from Amity Law School. So I'm very honored and delighted and at the same time feeling very feared to ask this question, but I will. Sir, I want to talk about beef ban.
What?
Beef ban.
Beef ban.
Oh, God.
And how people are getting killed for the slaughter, and I'm completely ready to support it. Because I know the Constitution says it's our duty to prevent animal cruelty. But sir, there are so many religions which prohibit something or the other, and should that also be prohibited then? Let's say Hinduism prohibits beef. The Muslim religion prohibits drinking. The Sikh religion prohibits smoking. So whether all should this be banned? And how does the Constitution give the right to a common man to kill someone for it? And what is the way out of this Constitution?
Yeah, speaking first for myself and then what the Constitution says. For myself, I believe that there should be no ban on anything. No book should be banned, no people should be banned, no church should be banned, nothing. What's the difficulty? Let 1,000 flowers bloom. Ours is a country where we have entertained people from all over the world. They've all come, they've all flourished. We are an enormous polyglot. We speak in so many different languages, dialects, etc., etc. And yet we are one nation. We should be proud to be a nation. I don't accept this theory of being a particular religious group or not a religious group. Whoever thinks that I am a Parsi or he's a Hindu and all, no, it doesn't even occur to some of us. I mean, with modern education, it shouldn't. All around the world, this has been a big problem. They call it racism in America and so on. And now we have a revival of that racism, which is coming through, which is very, very unfortunate. But we don't want that sort of thing to happen. Ours is a multiglot, polyglot country. As Gandhiji said, let the winds flow through all our house. Let the winds blow, but let's not get blown off by the wind. We have to keep ourselves firmly on the ground, that's all. So the Constitution now, the Constitution gives you certain rights. You read the relevant article and you deal with it and get it interpreted. Fundamental rights were there. We need not have had a chapter on fundamental rights. Just imagine if we had no chapter on fundamental rights. What would have happened? Just think. Without part 3, therefore without part 4 also. And therefore the Constitution was as it was. You'd have to work it in the best possible way that it's there. But here you have an implied prohibition. There can't be a law which does this. There can't be a law which does that, etc., etc. Which therefore you have to, role model for lawyers like you and me and so on. We can all go to court and say that this is wrong, this is right. I don't know about beef ban and whether it's right or it's wrong. Some cases it may be right, in some cases it may be wrong. But to lock up somebody or to go to his house and kill him because he has a bit of beef in him, I mean, it revolts me. I don't think we should have that sort of system. It's not the state that is violating your rights. It's somebody else, your neighbor, your political party opponent who is trying to violate his rights. And that's where you have to get some remedy. And that remedy is provided by civil rights. We still don't have a Civil Rights Act.
Rajgopal.
Good evening, sir. Rajgopal, reporter, ThePrint. Sir, the common thread which runs through all the great institutions like Election Commission of India, we have seen that the leaders leading them keep themselves away from the lure of post-retirement jobs. But these days we are seeing that, ex-army chief is moving to Raj Bhavan and then contesting on a party ticket. So in that respect, do you think that time has come for a cooling off period?
For a what? For a what?
Cooling off period for High Court and Supreme Court judges when an ex-Chief Justice of India is moving to a Raj Bhavan. So, and all the governors are political appointees. So do you think that now there should be a system of cooling off period for the High Court and Supreme Court judges?
Yes, definitely. They should never be in Raj Bhavan. Who said they should be? I agree with you. You're right. But the unfortunate thing is we can't, you see, we are all individuals. If I am a judge and I want to be a governor, and I ask somebody to make me governor, he makes me governor. There's no prohibition.
No, his point is, should there be a cooling off period?
Where? Cooling off? No, there should be a complete prohibition.
Complete prohibition.
Yeah. None of this cooling off. There's no cooling off.
Vinu Rajamani.
Sir, it has been argued that the word secularism was inserted into the preamble.
Yeah, it's a dirty word now. Finish. It's a dirty word.
Is it important?
In the preamble only during the emergency. That is why it's now become a dirty word. So I don't trust this business of secularism is at the heart of the constitution. It's not at all.
Dr. Paintal?
Sir, about
a bit closer.
Lower judiciary. So how do you think we can improve this foundation? Because most of the cases first go to the lower courts.
Oh, absolutely.
And if it takes too much time there, and maybe high courts and supreme courts can do wonderful work, but what about...
No, but you are wrong. The lower courts are under the discipline of the high courts. Decide the case, 6 months, 9 months. High court judges are not under any discipline. And the delays are in the high courts, I assure you. Perhaps in the Supreme Court as well, because they don't deliver judgments in time.
Yes.
Good morning, sir. I'm Riya Khanna. And sir, it's an honor to be here in your presence. Sir, I'd like to ask that there's a current trend all over the world of the rise of populist and nationalist sentiments. And so we see the same in India as well, with the current ruling, which states that the national anthem should play before the screening of any movie. Don't you think we're forcing nationalism? Do you think the judiciary can help protect this forced nationalism?
Our people are very, very funny, everybody. Nobody wants to do something by force. Nobody wants to say, sing the national anthem today. Why should I sing it today? I'll sing it when the president is here or something. I won't sing it
when
today.
I feel like.
Like that.
So you think this was not necessary?
Yeah, this is unnecessary. I agree with you. But some judges seem to think that it is necessary because there is a fundamental duty in the Constitution, and this is an example of the fundamental duty and how it can be enforced. Most people don't like it, I agree.
Fali, I know one question we haven't come to, and I was sort of hoping somebody will come up with this, but I'll bell the cat. This issue with the allegedly delinquent judge in Madras High Court. Do you think the Supreme would you have handled it differently?
Let me tell you one thing. There is a section in the Code of Civil Procedure which says, Section 133, that every judge of a High Court, every judge of the Supreme Court is not amenable to be directed to personally appear. So I would take it that you cannot issue a warrant of arrest to make him personally appear, because the law says he need not appear, however mad he be. And he's totally mad, I agree, that particular judge.
Right.
But that's no way to deal with him. There are other ways of dealing with him, which perhaps ought to have been done. It's not been done.
So how would you have dealt with it?
There are two ways. Ram Jethmalani had written an open letter saying that this man is a lunatic. On that basis, under the Mental Health Act, anyone can, listen, anyone can file a petition to the district judge, not Supreme Court, district judge. And the district judge is the only person who can arrest him and bring him to examine whether he is a lunatic or not. No, but speaking generally, it's very unfortunate that this man has gone off the handle, as you can see. And perhaps it could have been, perhaps should have been handled differently, but not by issuing warrants. I'm totally opposed to warrants of arrest being issued to High Court judges,
right,
howsoever delinquent they be. You either proceed with them in the way the Constitution mentions, namely send him to Parliament and
have him impeached.
Have him impeached if there is a ground for impeachment, or have him freed if there is no ground for impeachment. But there is no provision. Perhaps this shows that there is a lack of provision.
We've had film stars on this show, politicians on this show, yoga stars on this show, and we have people way more controversial, but I have to say that this, as we promised you, has been our most stimulating and scintillating off the cuff so far. So please come back for our next edition with another exciting guest. Thank you very much.